So this beginning
Rhett,
part of
come
the
here.
video shows Rhett just kind of getting spooked by something or just wanting to kind of run around here, but I wanted to show how quickly he comes back here. So he just wants to kind of trot over here. I'm just going to let him, no big deal. Obviously I'm in the around the round pen, so I'm inside the little rope area here. So he wants to trot off, he wants to go look at something. No big deal. I'm going to let him, I'm not yelling at him, not chasing him, not doing anything. I just asked him to come over and he wanted to trot down there. That's totally fine. That's one of the biggest parts of doing this type of training is kind of letting them explore and figure it out and, find what's most reinforcing. So he can kind of cruise down there. I just asked him to come up to me and he walks right on back to me and looks pretty happy about it. So this looks really nice. So I want him to just kind of stand here for a second and just kind of be interested in me and just kind of relax. And then I'll click and reinforce. So I don't click and reinforce as soon as he comes back because sometimes they'll think like the running away is part of it. So they want to run away and then come back. And then they think that's like a fun game. And if that's a behavior you'd like, then that's totally fine. That's not a behavior that I want. And so I have him come back. He kind of just stands for a second, maybe looks at me, maybe lowers his head, something like that, just so that it's not that complete coming back. It's like coming back and relaxing and not necessarily the loop of running away and coming back. So he's spooking at something or looking at something. There's some traffic going by. I'm not sure what's going on, but I'm just reinforcing him for kind of relaxing a little bit more. So when his head kind of comes down, he looks at me, he's not looking away. And I'm just reinforcing this default position for a little bit. And then we're going to work with the target and have him follow it forward and backward. That's kind of the goal of the lesson here. So he's just kind of looking at me, standing in default, so head's straight and still, um, not feet not moving. So if he wants to go and stare at whatever, that's totally fine. I'm just going to let him, just kind of like with the beginning of the video where he wanted to trot around. And as soon as he comes back, I'm clicking and feeding. So the reinforcement is for attention on me, interacting with me, not for staring out and doing whatever, but I'm not going to do anything about that staring out behavior. I'm not going to punish it. I'm not going to negatively reinforce it. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to ignore it. As soon as he comes back, I click and feed. So I want to reinforce that attention on me behavior. So I'm going to ask him to come forward and just follow that target. So my target is just a dressage whip with vet wrap wrapped around the end for a little target area, a little place for his nose to touch. And he's just beginning that targeting, to learn to target. So he does obviously lead. I usually lead him with the lead rope on. So now I wanted to teach him to do some targeting and lead at liberty. So that's where we're at right now. So I'm just kind of having the target under his nose and having him follow it backwards for the backup. We've done that a little bit as well. And you've seen me do some just target training, just getting him used to touching the target, because that was a new thing for him. Really, I didn't start that way with positive reinforcement with him. I did it with my other horses, my Mustangs, but I didn't do it with him because I really focused more on riding stuff with it. But yeah, that's where we're at right now. And he just kind of sometimes he's just looky, like he wants to look at stuff, and that's totally fine. And we'll work around it. So he comes back, then we'll continue working. So once he comes back and he's relaxed, then I'll see now he shook his head, put his head down, and now I'll go ahead and ask him to back up. So once he's come back to me and he's relaxed a bit, now he can have an opportunity to earn reinforcement. So if he's off looking and doing whatever, I'm not going to ask him for anything. I was making sure he wasn't dropping and too stressed. I didn't want him to be too excited. But uh, I'm gonna ignore where he's like staring off in the distance. He just doesn't get any reinforcement for that. So as soon as he comes back to me, then I will give him an opportunity to earn that reinforcement. So we walk forward a little bit more, and right now, like we're just doing a couple of steps. So he wants to look this way. I'm just gonna wait for him. I'm not gonna ask him to do anything. So now he's come back. Now I'll ask him to back up, and he backs up, and then I'll click and reinforce that. I'll ask him to go forward again to follow the target. That looks really nice. He's lowering his head to go touch it. So I'm going to reinforce him for following it for a few strides, and then we'll stop and feed. And I'll just let him chew for a bit. Reinforce him for staying still. I'm going to keep that in there as well. So we're still working on a little bit of default because I want to keep that in there. I don't want him just going forward, forward, forward like I ended up inadvertently training under saddle. So I want to make sure he stands still and that's his default behavior on the ground too. And then I had him back up and that looked pretty nice. He caught on to that lesson pretty quickly. I'll have him go forward again. So just present the target. I don't really need him to touch it. I rather him just follow it. And I want to reinforce him for kind of following it and then not really like chasing it and trying to touch it. I don't want to have that chasing behavior. I want to make sure that he's just in the following behavior. So like some horses, if you always have them touch it, they might want to chase it and then they can pin their ears and get a little frustrated with it. So I don't want to do that. Have him back up again. I probably can start asking for more steps of the backup. He knows how to do it. Um, and we can just start working on that a little bit more. But again, reinforcing for default. And I'm mixing up the different like behaviors that he can do so that we can start just like not just working on one, but kind of adding in different ones that I would use just routinely. With lots of standing still in the middle. So present the target. I really want him to go forward to the target. I don't want my feet moving to be his cue. I want the presenting of the target and then eventually a voice cue to be his cue to walk on. That can be something that we can inadvertently train really easily too. So I want to present the target and then I'll ask with, or I can start adding a voice cue once I'm presenting the target and he's consistently following it. So they're like, I showed it to him and he didn't follow it. So I wouldn't want to start with the voice cue quite yet. Um, I want to make sure that every time he sees that target, he's going to go forward to it. And then I will start adding a voice cue. So that I'll say walk on, present the target, and then reinforce. So that's kind of how I would teach the cue for that. And again, practicing some standing still, present the target. That was a lot better than last time. He just went right forward to it, and we're going to increase how many steps we can take. So this looks really good. And he's new to it, but he figured it out really quickly. He obviously already knows how to lead, but he doesn't know how to do that on a target, so that's what we've been working on, and he's just pretty much caught right to it, went right to it and figured it right out. So just doing some, like he was kind of looking off, and then when he came back to me, I reinforced. Like how he just kind of shakes his head, he relaxes a little bit. I'm not sure. Maybe the sunlight is like reflecting off of things. He thinks he sees something, but he wants to be kind of looky this day. Again, nice walk forward with the target. Giving him a little bit of time to chew. You want to be careful though if you have a horse that really wants to go forward a lot, like if you watch Caster's videos. You want to start clicking and feeding pretty quickly, like a rapid fire for staying still. So just really quickly click feed, click feed, click feed, and then start very slowly increasing the time that he can stand there. Rhett doesn't really have that problem. He is forward, but from the ground at least, I have been reinforcing the standstill quite a bit. So he's pretty balanced on the ground. He goes forward when I ask, he stops when I ask. So that looks really nice. But yeah, if you want to see that, you can watch Caster's videos. And again, I did that on accident. I accidentally trained him to do that. So it's a lot easier if you just don't train that to begin with. So again, reinforce him for going forward. This looks really nice. He can probably start going the other direction because he's got that and start putting a voice cue on it and teaching the backup, start doing maybe some trot, stuff like that, so that we can kind of maybe do some in-hand stuff or just have it transfer to the undersaddle. Like if you want to teach your horse voice cues that you'd like to use undersaddle, this is how I would do it. I'd start on the ground and get them really solid there and then start using them undersaddle. They should transfer pretty well. And then if you, like I use a target to transfer those under saddle as well, and that seems to help too. Yeah, that's the process that I use to teach Rhett how to follow the target and back up with the target, so that looks pretty nice.